All right, so the audio might be a little behind. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna figure it out. We did an hour last time, so it's 1 o'clock in the morning right now. So we're gonna keep it moving. Might as well. I ain't doing that. So look, we talked about the VCR combo. We talked about the little bad thing at the Oracle building or wherever that was. It was somewhere downtown for like a long time ago. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking around that time. I should have bagged that and threw it in the archive. Anyway, so this Ed Pearson part 5. You know, I was gonna talk about like my dad's idea. You got to think he was 50 when he had me, so he had an idea on his idea of life was a certain, like he looked at hip hop and stuff like the boom de kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm young enough to really see Only Built. I'm old enough to see Only Built for Cuban Link, and old enough to see Illmatic, but new enough to still to be able to listen to Chief Keef, which came out 2013. He was only 14. I might have been 30 when Chief Keef came out, maybe a little younger, than maybe in my late 20s, but then he was probably maybe 14. You see what I'm saying? So I'm old enough to listen to Sketches of Spain, but then I'm young enough to know who NBA Youngboy is. So that 80s babies, even though we're a lot what they would consider us to be old, some of the younger people, as people always have done for centuries, I'm young enough to still, if a young person's asking me, man, well, what you watch out for those old Negroes, because they might turn you astray. Don't think that just because they old, they are elder. Don't think that. Don't never think that. They might just be an old nigga. Don't trust them all the time. So I was talking about food stamps. Now I'm going to analyze that song that I made. Now, for y'all that know, it's the Adventures of DP. This is talking about how I grew up, how I got into IT, my life. This is the life story. The Adventures of DP is the life story. So, talking about the sector of growing up with my pops, I'm going to get into talking about the aspect of, we going to get into what do they call that, the food stamps, because I remember seeing food stamps. So now we'll get into that in a minute, but the first thing I want to talk about is how I learned about the ideologies of my dad's take on racism, white supremacy. He grew up in the Jim Crow South at a time in his life. So growing up there, that's not something you're going to forget. You're not going to be able to ignore it. You're not going to be able to deny it. You're not going to be able to say it doesn't exist, because it did. You see what I'm saying? So he was giving his take on northern cities. Now, I learned about sundown towns many years later. I had no idea the difference between the North and the South. We used to always think, oh, well, racism is the South. Now, we would feel it up here in Minnesota in the North and stuff, but we couldn't put a finger on it because it's so damn passive aggressive. And then later on, you start learning about Dred Scott. And like I had to let folks know, this ain't the Jim Crow North no more. This is Dred Scott at this point. This was in the Wisconsin territory. Dred Scott was in the Wisconsin territory. I say it all the time. This was not in Mississippi. This was up here. The Dred Scott decision was up here in Minnesota, the Wisconsin territory. Look at the old maps. Minnesota was the Wisconsin territory, right? Okay, so I want to play some audio where I said, I kind of went off the deep end because I was kind of going back and forth between memories. I recorded this audio likely when I stayed in D building in Cedar Riverside. This was before there was no cars. This was probably around the time, this was after when Ray came out. I'm putting movies as markers, as cultural markers, so y'all get an idea. And the reason why I was saying is like the tapes meant so much for me. Like I was telling y'all about. Now this had to been around. It could have been after high school, where I was telling you it was this chick from Texas. She was drawing. She was real good, real good head on her shoulders. Like I can't say that now. I'm talking about my younger years. I can't say. God sent me some. He sent me some upstanding broads, some real upstanding broads, in my early 20s. This is way before I had a car. This is way before I had money and everything. I was pulling more without no money than when I did have money, which blew me. I don't know how that worked. You know what I'm saying? But so now it was an artist chick, and we start kind of talking over the phone. I think at that time, I don't even know if I had a cell phone. I probably did. I think I did have a cell phone. I probably did have a cell phone around that time because I had a cell phone in high school. At one point, I did have a cell phone in high school, and I think after 9 o'clock, the minutes was free through voice stream and stuff like that. So we start hanging out. Blockbuster, and you know what? It's crazy because in high school, I was like 17, 18. I lost my virginity. And then I ain't do nothing for like another year or two, something like that. Like I was cold turkey. Like, and it was by choice. It was like, okay, it wasn't a big deal. But we started hanging out, and she was real good at drawing, man. And she, I didn't bring women to meet my mama like that. Like usually, if I bring women sometimes over the house, what I do is I wait till she sleep, or I think she sleep, and I Blockbuster, and you know what I'm saying, we watching a movie, turn the movie up, and But I brought her during, I say work hours. Like I brought her by the crib. My mom liked her, and she was thick as hell from Texas, bad. I don't know why I let her go, but eventually she left, and I think she went down to Texas or Oklahoma or something like that. And eventually later on she came back. Point is, that was probably that was before Ray came out in 2004. It had to be. And it could have been after high school. I think it was. Because I probably was still selling CDs and stuff like that, but I think it was. I think it was anywhere between 2001 or something like that. I don't know what it was, but so getting back to like when my dad, I recorded the conversation that we had when I was in D building, Cedar Riverside. Then I brought it to the studio some time later, and he was talking about race soldiers and the difference between the North and the South. That's what I was trying to get back to before I start babbling. The North and the South, and how it relates to law and order versus this open white supremacy, and what was more prejudice. And I had no clue, but it makes perfect sense. And I want to play this for y'all real quick. Hold on, let me see if I can. There we go. Okay.
But he was also, he was a top rock.
All right, hold on, let's see. Okay, so me and my dad was arguing about the Panthers and all this kind of stuff. Let me see if I could turn this up a little bit and amplify. Yeah, let me see if I can amplify this. It may sound a little weird, but I'm going to see if I can amplify it. Okay, let's see if I can amplify this. Y'all could tell that I have a little bit of, make a little more gain.
Love a person. Elvis.
Okay, let's see if I can amplify a little more because it's very low.
Love a person. Elvis Presley was a nice person. He's just like Marilyn Monroe, and he's just running that dope and crack and stuff just blew him out.
The thing about Elvis Presley is I found out about him. Elvis Presley actually stated.
Huh?
Hey, I said the thing.
So I'm telling him, Elvis Presley stole black music, and I think I might have said that Elvis was racist around that time or something. I don't know. So me and him gets going back and forth, and he was just kind of lacing me with some game about the North and the South. So he gets into that in a minute.
Well, when I learned about Elvis Presley,
Yeah.
Elvis Presley actually
Started off singing in church, just like a lot of the guys started, and they got brave enough to sing in the public. But he was also, he was a pop rock person, and he wanted to be good, so he'd hang around those black folks. I mean, they say they could full of rhythm and stuff. He suffered a lot from, he watched other people, and
he stated clearly. He said, I don't care. He don't give a hoot about black people. I read this in an autobiography by a Black Panther.
yeah, well, you about the Black Panthers, you can't count on what they say. They're stupid.
Here we go.
Black Panthers. The thing about
The
the Black Panthers.
Panthers are just like the clans. It's a clan.
So he was talking about the Black Panthers that are like the Klan. They Klanist groups and stuff like that. So me and him, we start getting into it. So his idea was that. Now I don't know if he looked at, because he started talking about some gang members or something like that, and I'm like, okay, well the Panthers weren't gang members, so I don't know where he had got that from or whatever the case may be, but he somehow, let me see how this, let me make sure this sounded good. Hold on. Why ain't this playing? Okay, there we go. Okay, I think I'm good. So his idea was, now here's the thing about and again, keep in mind, y'all, I'm around 20 when we having this conversation. My dad had me. Now keep in mind, this was around, like I said, this had to have been around 05, 06 or something like that when I got this audio. And I wanted to get this audio because I didn't think I would have anything of my dad. So I recorded it. You know what I'm saying? I don't really record people without them telling. But in this case, I made an exception. I said, man, I got to have this audio. I got to have a piece of him. You know what I'm saying? Because I may not, know. And so I sent this to my niece. I sent it to people that grew up around my dad, that had experience with my pops, that want to hear this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to send this to like my stepsisters and stuff, so they can kind of have an idea. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to post this one on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Because it's important that folks get the archive. I'm going to go ahead so they could watch this and they could hear me talk, you know what I'm saying? And kind of get an understanding of, so like, keep in mind, y'all, he was 50 when he had me. So this is like 20 years later, like he was damn near pushing 70 and stuff. So his mind was still sharp, but like in his mind with the Panthers, me, I'm on some revolutionary type of shit. Like I'm identifying with the Panthers. He's like, well, they was looking at themselves as supremacists. Well, there's only could be one supreme. You can't have two. You know what I'm saying? So like, but check this out. This is what he starts hipping me to. There's some things about the North and the South.
Black Panthers are just like the clans. It's a clan, a clanish.
They're not like the clans. They represent
Any group, sir. Let me argue with you a little bit. Any group that, unless you don't know what clanish means, a clanish means that there's a separate group. They wanna be a dominant group. So the black clans or the black power, any of these groups here that wants to do something, separatism. I mean, I don't hear them talking about love, like the Muslims, the Muslims.
The thing is, the way I look at it like this is, during those times, White people weren't talking about love. All they were trying to do to black people is rape and dehumanize and Jim Crow and colored only signs. So the police coming in, brutalizing black people, the Black Panthers were like, we're going to cut that out.
So basically, my position was, and this is what the race soldiers were doing, they were brutalizing black folk, and the Panthers wasn't having it. So he's thinking of like the gangs or something like this. I don't know where, and that's that age gap. I'm not looking at the race soldiers and I'm not giving them no pass. I'm not giving the police no pass. The police you got to think, there was incidents where they were shooting and beating pregnant black women. So, he's making it seem as if, my pops is talking about some gang members or something. I said, man, the gangs came after the Panthers. So, he's probably maybe thinking of some Bloods and Crips or something. I don't know what he was thinking of or what he was, maybe he was, that's the only other thing I could think of is he's thinking of the GDs, Vice Lords, and Bloods and Crips, and that's a whole different thing than the Panthers. That came much later. I mean, well, not too far after, but that came at a time where, they weren't on the same time as the Panthers. That was a different thing. You talking about organized crime now. So, the revolutionary spirit in that regard, when it came to, you might have had some dudes very, very early on that was talking about that, but man, when you had crack cocaine, man, please. Yeah, once the crack cocaine came in and them automatic weapons, man, that was over with. It really started with the heroin and stuff, but man, you get that crack, man, it's over with. So maybe he's looking at the 80s or something like that, so I don't know.
You're not coming in our neighborhoods brutalizing us no more. So you're missing.
Now, see, that's what I was trying to say is, you're not coming in our neighborhoods brutalizing us anymore. So I'm not talking about just so quote unquote just the Panther itself. The Panthers were created due to the brutalization, and I'm trying to get him to understand these were innocent black folk that was being attacked. But see, he probably never been out to Watts in California and all that, when them folks was kicking that stuff off in Oakland and all that. So
what you're missing, sir, here's what you're missing. We're talking about a clannish group. Anytime a group that in order to get your rights, whatever rights you have to get, you gotta kill other people to do it. You have the right to bear arms. They were killing.
And see, he said you gotta unalive other people to do it, and I'm like, you got a right to bear arms, which you do. You have a right to bear arms. You ain't got to necessarily have a right to just unalive somebody just because you want to, but you have a right to bear arms, just like the white supremacists have it. And that's what I was saying to him.
You do not have a right to kill somebody to get what you have. I mean, what's right and what's wrong? Are we talking what's right and wrong, or are we talking about good?
Now here's where the game comes, right here.
What we want to do.
We're talking about right and wrong, but the thing is, the Black Panthers, they were helping protect black people, and police were killing them and spraying them with water hoses. So if somebody's killing you and spraying you with water hose, you don't have the right. You don't have the right to
wait. Hold it. If the police didn't come in and break up,
turn this up a little bit.
What do you think would happen? Okay, so here's a bunch of people over here, and I'm talking about what they call gangs. The gangbangers. They're killing each other.
Now, see, he was equating the Panthers with the gangbangers. He was thinking about the gangbangers. He said, and the gangbangers breaking it up. The gangbangers, and here's what another thing he probably just didn't know. When you have gangs, man, ain't nobody breaking up no gangs. If you have some niggas gang banging, man, they gonna shoot each other up, and that's gonna be it. The police gonna come after. They're not gonna get in the midst of any gang members shooting each other up. But a lot of times when crimes like that happen, in terms of you say, well, it's a gang, there's a shooting and the police come afterwards. Usually the police aren't there. It might be somebody innocent that gets shot or whatever the case may be, but the police don't typically, they're not always just there to break up what he quote unquote called a gang fight.
Now, what we do, just let the two do gangs fight until they kill each other and then wipe them out, or we just come in and stop them? What do we do?
Here's another example: the demonstrations with Martin Luther King. They sprayed these people with water hoses. They were demonstrating for their rights to end Jim Crow.
Here's what you're missing. You're missing this because you weren't there. You weren't old enough to understand it. Dr. King started his program where?
Alabama.
In the South. How in the heck you gonna change a whole nation of people who think that they are better than others? Now this doesn't make everybody white now. That's where ignorance comes in. You look at a white man and you from president because he's white, and you say, "Here's another guy hate me." How many white folks died for Dr. King program?
There was a lot of them.
A lot. In fact, I'll tell you what. Now listen to me good. If it wasn't for a lot of white folks coming forward, dying with Dr. King, in fact, Dr. King was just one man. But they killed far more white folks than they did black folks in Selma, Alabama, buddy. Did you know that?
No.
That's because you don't want to know it either. I mean, I'm talking to my son, but I'm going to tell you something. You need to talk to Robert Pearson. He's down in the South, he'll tell you. He'll tell you that way more white folks died than black folks. Because you know what? They realized that it wasn't right for them to raise hell just because somebody wanted to drink out of a water fountain. It doesn't make sense. Somebody just wanted to drink water and they say you can't drink because you're black and all that kind of crap. And guess what? Now, here's what Dr. King did. Because he was stupid. He went down south and convinced the white folks that they were wrong.
They were wrong.
Now, wait, let me finish. But here's the mistake he made. After he went south, then where did he go? Come on, talk to me. He went north. And I knew. And I didn't go to Chicago. He went north, went to Memphis, Tennessee. And I knew he was going to get killed. You know why? Don't you know that the people in the South is not as prejudiced as the people in the North?
Now that did it for me right there. When he told me that was a mic drop. That was the pinnacle and the perfect context of how race soldiers and racism, white supremacy works. He was giving me my Dred Scott speech right then and there. See, because a lot of Negroes, and I'm just going to say it, because a lot of Negroes up here could ride in a Cadillac and get them a white woman and not get strung up by a tree, it's all good. We ain't got to worry about it. We've arisen. We've awoken. We've got so much success. We've made it. No. That right there kind of did it. And see, these are the kind of conversations. We didn't have these conversations a lot, but now y'all understand why I had to get that. I had to get this on tape. It blew my mind. I'm sitting there listening like, whoa.
And I knew he was going to get killed. You know why? Don't you know that the people in the South is not as prejudiced as the people in the North? Did you know that? I know a little bit more than you do because I'm older than you are. The people in the South, they'll call you a nigger, stand on top of your feet and call you a nigger. Why they made it? The people in the North, why would they call you a nigger in the North?
It was more behind the back.
No, I'm gonna tell you why. They can get sued. They can lose everything they got. The Northern folks won't stand for it. There's more law and order in the North, but there's more prejudice in the North than is in the South. And black folks don't know this.
Now, this right here, this audio, this conversation that I had with my pops, this was pretty much the forefront and the basis of my second book all through and through, just aside just tech. But you got to think we black. I personally, yeah, it's nice. I like my Rodecaster Pro. I like the Rodecaster mic I'm on. Technology is cool. I like the Blockbuster. I like the VHS, the CD burner, all that cool. But I don't really give a damn about that. We black. You take all this shit away from us, and you still got race soldiers. These are tools that we use so we can go farther where we want to go. That's all it is. It's a damn tool. It ain't no different than the toolbox. George Washington Carver ain't had none of this shit. Biddy Mason ain't have it either. You see what I'm saying? So like, I wrote into the context when I was writing these books. The first and second book, yeah, I'm talking tech. Show y'all how to get some money. You know, but we black. So I'm writing in the context of the freedmen and coming from that perspective. It's not coming from the Coon or the Sambo perspective. It's coming from, you know, the average nigga from Minneapolis. You see what I'm saying? That's the perspective that I'm coming from. That's why I said, like, even with this channel, it's not. I tried to be. I remember initially I was trying to, like, oh well, I'm gonna try to corporate it, man. I ain't the hell with that, because that's just not me. If you take me offline and you take my suit off and my little tight ass shirt or whatever the case may be that I might wear to work, when you get me offline, this is how I sound. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't, my ideology, I never really gave a damn about the corporate world. Never liked it, never respected it. It's just a place where I could just get a check. I don't look at it and that's the thing. Like I say, when you get into, and I'm just letting y'all know, when you get into this world, a lot of times from the folks that sound like and think with my behavior and my ideology, sometimes those environments are hard because a lot of them folks don't think like us. Like I was gonna say the other day, I was gonna make a story time, and I was gonna say that I seen the dude. This like I think I talked about it in one of my digital journals, but it's like my second or third time. I'm in the bathroom, man, and these folks don't wash their damn hands. But you want me to come to your potluck? You want me to sit there and talk to you as if we don't really come from that cloth. Our parents would beat our ass if we take a number 2 and don't wash our damn hands. This dude coming out the bathroom, and he walking past me as if, and maybe because he think I ain't paying no mind, man, you coming out the number 2 flushing and don't wash your hands? I seen it. And they expect us to come to their potlucks. Well, he's not talking enough. Derek's not talking enough. Man, the hell with that. If that's the promotion, if that's got to get me to the top. Because see, now what that's like quasi buck breaking to me. Yeah, you ain't making me pull down my pants, but you want me to be subjected to your flimflammery and subjected to me damn near catching a pathogen because you don't want to wash your hands, but you want me to come to the bar with y'all. You want me to kick it outside of work hours and be subjected to no. I'm good. No, I don't want the promotion. I'll keep where I'm at. I'll hustle. I'll get out the mud. Nah, I'm cool. I'm good. I don't even want to pretend like I'm interested. Because y'all acting like some straight Neanderthals up in this damn building. We got water. This ain't Braveheart. There's no reason for this. You see what I'm saying? So that's y'all gotta understand, and that's why I'm preparing. That's why I wrote the way I wrote, because y'all going in these damn environments. You going in these lines, then you going in it, and it's best for you to get snow. That's all. It's best for you to know to get down. So yeah, I could not write this coming from this ain't no Skip the Truth Gates type of Negroes. You know what I'm saying? This is a different type. This ain't, you know what I'm saying? This is a different type of Negro we're talking about right here. This ain't the tap dance perspective. I can't. I can't. I can't. I will feel like somebody. I feel like a hoe. I can't. I can't come from that perspective. I can't lie to y'all. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, like, this did it for me. When I heard this audio, that's why after hearing something like this, I said I gotta write in a certain way. I have to write in a certain way. I have to speak. I have to speak truth to power. I can't just go in there and just say, "Oh well, you know, just keep your head low." No. Hell, I'll just cancel this channel. I'll delete that shit tomorrow morning. I'll go to KDP on Amazon and I'll delete my Instagram. I'll delete all that shit. I'll be done with it. If I gotta do that, if I gotta lie and I gotta cap and not come from the Freedman's experience, I'll blow it away. I'll just get up and just go to work and I'll just delete all this shit. Y'all never hear from me again. If that's what I have to do, nope. I ain't doing it. I can't.
It's in this house, and black folks don't know this, and you're too young to know it.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back and share it.
But there's more prejudice in the North than is in the. They can lose everything they got. The Northern folks won't stand for it. There's more law and order in the North. But there's more.
Now remember what I talked about, the law and order. That's why. Okay, now let's be clear. Yeah, we usually end up getting the less crumbs, the less executive positions, less of anything. We always end up with the short end of the stick, which is usually the least when it comes to programs, grant, any of this stuff. So people will say, well, DP, if DEI goes away, y'all ain't gonna get nothing in the first place. We ain't got nothing anyway. However, if everybody else, which this is from the Department of Labor, this ain't just me speaking, but I gotta say it again for some folks to just say, well, man, you just white women and immigrants are the main beneficiaries of DEI. If this means that they lose it all and we gotta lose it, which the little crumbs we got, the hell with it. We'll all be equally uncomfortable. This ain't gonna be, well, we just get the crumbs and we be like, well, if we lose all the DEI, then we all gonna lose it. Then we all gonna lose it. Y'all not gonna reap all the benefits and we get the crumbs, and then we still fighting for the little crumbs we got while y'all get it all. Grants, beneficiaries, this has been documented. Most average logical black folks, they don't give a damn. Well, don't shop at Target. DEI, the hell with it. We don't care. The people that's really belly aching about it is the people that have been receiving the benefits, which I call the Pharaoh freebies. Y'all been receiving the benefits, unearned benefits. Benefits off the 14th Amendment that y'all never fought for nor deserve.
Me the power I beg of you.
You see what I'm saying?
African Americans built this nation.
Turn that up, man.
You built this nation. You know, you're just starting to get real credit.
So if DEI means that the main people that are receiving all the benefits, remember what I said, so much law and order. These law and order so-called liberal environments, the left wing of racism, they're receiving all the benefits. They got all these laws, and that's what he was talking about. So he was kind of setting me up for the DEI conversation, and I didn't even know it. That's the framework. The North, so many laws, so liberal, law after law after law, DEI, oh, George Floyd, and then turn around and you know, prejudice is hell. Prejudice is hell.
No, the folks won't stand for it. There's more law and order in the North, but there's more prejudice in the North than is in the South, and black folks don't know this, and you're too young to know it. Look, I lived in the South, Derek, all my life. When that white man called you a nigger, he meant it. And he wasn't calling you a nigger because of the fact that you're black. Now, that's why he called you a nigger. He called you a nigger because he wants you to feel that, he wants you to figure, hey, I'm better than you, and you're worse than I am, And it's not true, and he knows it's not true. You'd be surprised how many black folks in the South are respected by white folks. Let me ask you a question. You in the field of making money, you need to understand this. Why do you think Michael Jordan is so popular?
The white people like him.
Why do you think they like him?
His personality.
Nonsense. Plain nonsense, sir. He's a winner. Derek, the man's a winner. And white folks go with the winner. They don't care what color he is. Let me ask you this here. Why do you think they've cut Kobe loose? Kobe.
He was losing.
Come on, man.
He was losing. He lost.
You didn't even think it, sir. I don't know where you get your information. This man here is one of the best basketball players next to Michael Jordan in the world. And I ask you, why did he cut him loose and make him free where he can be back out on playing ball? I ask you a question. You tell me he's a loser. Don't make sense. You're not thinking.
He went and caught that rape case, so that kind of set him back.
What?
That rape case.
What rape case?
Yeah, the rape case.
They could care less about that, buddy. Let me ask you, why do you think Michael Jackson now, we're not talking about a rape case, now we're talking about Michael Jackson and the little boys, why do you think they cut him loose? I can't get you know what bothers me about black folks, and you are black. When I get to answer them questions, they don't have no answers, and it bothers me. You should have answers. I thought you backed them in the corner, man. You should be able to come out fighting.
Because of the money.
That's right. And did you think they were going to put him in jail?
No, I didn't think that.
I didn't either. And I knew it. You know how I knew it? Another thing. Now, here's a kicker. Here's the one that's going to, if you ain't sitting down, you'll fall down. Why do you think, now listen to this. They say he rapes little kids and he does kids. Now, the Catholic, this is just a sideline I'm going to put it, but the Catholic priests, don't they rape little kids?
Yeah, a lot of them have in the
Do they put them in jail?
No.
Do they take them to court?
No.
Why? Let me tell you why, so you'll know. I'm going to time to go. The Pope will raise hell. Did you hear what I said? The Pope will raise hell. And what do they do to them when they claim that they are guilty? What exactly do they do to a priest that's having little boys? Well, let me tell you what they do so you'll know. They might have one precept for another, sir, and that's all. Now, another thing, let me ask you another question. These nuns not supposed to have men, right?
Right.
But they have the priests, and the priests get them pregnant. What do they do with the babies?
Put them up for adoption.
Yeah. In a furnace, they burn them up. Do you hear anybody complaining? Heck no. Now, wait a minute now. What do they do to a woman when she has an abortion? They raise hell. Hang her out to dry, won't give up work. Let me ask you, which is the worst? Having...
All right, so now that conversation, like I said, and hopefully y'all got the audio or whatever, you know. Hopefully this StreamYard thing don't make me, because that would suck, because I had a lot of stuff that I was saying, you know, but that was the conversation that we had. You know what I'm saying? That was a father-son conversation. He didn't know he was being recorded. You know, like I say, I don't typically do that. I've never done that before. Outside of that, but I had to have that audio. And you know, like some people say, well, man, the police, man, why you put that on tape? There's no crime committed. That's not something I typically do, and I'm glad. Because see, now I can have it, other family members can have it, and so you know, like going back into 2008, he died in, I believe, March 2009, and he died alone. In Coloplast, remember, I found out that I was diabetic, and I don't even think I talked to him about being diabetic. I don't think I did. I don't know. I might not. I don't even think I told him. But I remember when I was working at Coloplast, and I'll never forget this. I started Coloplast in August 2008. Okay. That was not too long. I was going on interviews for Robert Half in 2008. I was working at the nonprofit in South Minneapolis. I had my Dodge Spirit at the time. Because remember, I bought that Dodge Spirit when it was cold outside. Because I think it was late. I think it was either late 2007. It was maybe December 2007. Or it might have been early 2008, January, where I bought my first car. Remember, I told you on Lake Street where dude, it ripped me off. And then, I gave him the keys back, started hustling, got on the bus. At that time, doing my computer repair, saved up a rack in like a week or whatever like that off of hustling. And then I went and remember New York, I told y'all about New York, brought me off of Craigslist. I just found something on Craigslist, paid dude like $1,100, got my Dodge Spirit and went to work and start hustling even more. You know what I'm saying? I got into that car accident the weekend of working. I started August 2008 at Coloplast at Robert Half. And I got into that car accident. It was me, my homie, and this chick I used to talk to. I was helping her. She wanted to go find a car, and I got rear-ended. And around that same time, I just started the job. So I think my lights were getting ready to get cut off. And around that time, it was this woman I was talking to from Winona. You know what I'm saying? We had got close and stuff like that. And I was ashamed. She wanted to pay my light bill. And I wouldn't let her pay it. You know what I'm saying? And so she was kind of, she wanted to pay it. And so kind of around the same time, the one that got into the accident with me, my lights were off. So my lights was off, my fridge was off. I was thirsty. I had all those bad symptoms. And I was still getting up going to work and stuff like that, like for that first week or whatever. So I think by that time, I think we, around that same time, we had that accident. It was either after or before. Because I remember the girl that I was bringing to try to go get a car, she spent the night with me when my lights were off. So, my lights off, so I ain't really trying to holler at nothing, but we kind of had a relationship. Not like we weren't, a couple or nothing like that. But I remember I felt so sick, and I didn't know what was going on with me. And my lights were off. You know what I'm saying? I just started my job, but I think I ain't paid the light bill or whatever, but my lights were off. All the electricity there was no electricity. I had to have a candle and stuff. I still take a shower and stuff like that, but the lights were off. So we just lit a candle, and she came by the crib. We kind of snuggled up, went to sleep, and I got up and went to work the next day or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like, ain't nothing crack. We ain't do nothing, but it was kind of like it was a surreal moment for me because I didn't know what was going on in my body. I had no idea I had diabetes. I'll never forget. I had no idea that I had diabetes, and I couldn't think because my sugar was too high. I didn't know what was wrong with me. All I know is the other chick I declined. She was gonna pay my light bill, and I wouldn't let her. It was like $150. It was real cheap. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't let my parents know, around that time. No, my dad was still alive, so we weren't, But now later, I'm getting to the point. Later, months on, got on my feet relatively fast. Robert had paid every week. I was like, I didn't really want for nothing too much long. I was still hustling, but you could tell that happened around August because like the first 2 weeks that I started working at Coloplast, I think it was like the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it was, I was off a whole week because remember, I got into that car accident. I was working downtown Minneapolis, and I was starting to see double, and I was still feeling heavy and thirsty, and I guess all the worst symptoms of high blood sugar. I had no clue what was going on. I finally went to the hospital. I was in, and I'm driving around my dog spirit and everything. I was in the hospital for like a week, and when I got out, I think my lights were on by that time, and you know, months later, and I think it was a little cold outside, like it was getting close to maybe October or something like that, because I was only there from August to December. And I was kind of burnt out when I came back, coming out of that hospital, and I had to take insulin and all that stuff. I was kind of burnt out. So I was trying to eat salads and doing this and doing that and all that. So, like I say, in the span of that 2008, 2009, early 2010, things was going quick, back to back. It was always something going on. There's things that I won't talk about on here, because maybe I'll talk about it on a Patreon, maybe when I get a couple thousand subscribers or something like that. It's some time later. And I'll just tell it, you know, it ain't nothing. It's old, you know what I'm saying. But there was a lot of stuff going on, back to back. It was just a bunch of stuff, bad things, and you know, good things, bad things, just happening back to back. So, life was fast. Life was moving very, very fast. So now, I talked to my pops probably around September, October, because I was working at Vadnais Heights. I told you all about working out there in Vadnais Heights. I was just out there today at Walmart. It's by that Walmart in Vadnais Heights, the Coloplast building, if it's still there. One day I'm going to do a story time. I'm going to bring y'all out there. I can't remember where it is, but I'll find it. And we had a long, like a 2-hour conversation. We buried the hatchet, because we still had unresolved issues and stuff too. You got to think, he left. He kind of left us hanging dry, you know. But by that time, you know, like I said, I'm doing my thing. I ain't tripping. I ain't really have a bone to pick. He always said, he had said that, you know, my brother had an issue with him, and he said he don't blame him. He said because he felt abandoned, which was true. He felt abandoned. And so, you know, my dad was just kind of coming to terms with the things he did. And he was like, yeah, man, I got cancer and stuff. He said, you know, and I kind of knew about that already, but he said, I'm ready. He said, I'm tired. Like, you know what I'm saying? And he died pretty much a year later. Like, me and him had this conversation around September or October. It could have been November, but it wasn't August. So it probably was October. It was a little colder. Because I remember, and it was definitely after the accident, you know what I'm saying? Because the accident, when I got rear-ended by the drunk white lady in St. Louis Park, that happened around the diabetes situation. It was all within, a couple weeks. So it was after the accident. So I'm still driving around, you know what I'm saying, with my Dodge Spirit, with my, the trunk didn't really, like, you couldn't really open the trunk. It was like, you know, when we got rear-ended, you couldn't really open the trunk. So I couldn't get my 212s up out of there or whatever. So I'm still driving it around, waiting for my little settlement, you know what I'm saying, for them to pay me, you know, because I kept it. I told them, just pay me my settlement for the value of the car. Like, I think they gave me like $1,100. And then I said, well, how much does it cost to keep it? And I think they gave me like, I think they told me give them $100 back or something like that. So I drove it. And I could have kept driving it, but I think I gave it to somebody, or I sold it for a little bit of nothing. I pretty much gave it away, you know what I'm saying? Because it was a runner. Man, that thing probably still runs. It was a tank. It was a runner. It was a super runner. So they gave me a Kia for a little while, and I drove that, and then I drove my Dodge Spirit a little bit, and then I just went and got what'd I get then? Let me see. Around that time, Big Rob had sold me to Bonneville. He sold me to Bonneville in October, but I think I had the Dodge Spirit, and then I went and got that two-door Sabre. You know what I'm saying? Around that same time. So like all around that same time, later 2008. Then I voted for Barack's old tap dancing ass. We buried the hatchet in Vadnais Heights. I talked to him for about. So this audio that I just played for y'all, that was well before. That was like 05, 06 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. It wasn't 07. I talked to, the last conversation me and my dad had was that 2-hour conversation at Vadnais Heights around I'll say October, probably October. Probably, late September, October 2008. And March 09, I don't think I talked to him again. I'm trying to think if I talked to him again. But in March 09, because I don't recall, let me see, where was I living? I was still, I was on Minnehaha when I was working at Cola Place. I was on Minnehaha because I remember told you I was having my way. I don't think I talked to him again. He called. I think he tried to reach out to us, and maybe he didn't have a number, but he was sick. He was kind of on his last leg, and he wanted to come up here and see us one more time. He was living in Oregon, but then he was making his way to Aunt Joe's. He was making his way to Chicago. So I don't think he wanted to come all the way up here until he could confirm, but he wanted to see us one last time. And now when I look back, it's so heartbreaking when I think, because he called, and my mom was kind of sick too. So I think he called my mom's, and my mom wasn't there, or I don't know what happened, but he couldn't get in contact with us. My mom probably was over at my grandma's kind of around this time because she was kind of sick. So sometimes she would stay over there. And eventually my mom moved around maybe 2010, 2011 or something like that. She moved in with my grandma because it got to the point where she got too sick to really stay in River Bluff. You know what I'm saying? So I think, he had reached out and he had called my mom, and to what she told me is he was a little upset because he was trying to contact somebody, but he couldn't contact us. So what I understood from my aunt, and my aunt, like I told you, I just went to bury my aunt in Chicago. Was it January? Or was it December? When did I go to Chicago? Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, it was January. Man, January 6th. January 6th. Yeah. Me and my brother went to Chicago on January 6th. Yep. Yeah. And one of the trains got delayed, but I'm glad we went down there though, man. I'm so glad that we went down there. You know, and that was a financially trying time, you know what I'm saying, at the very beginning of the year for me. But yeah, man, my aunt told me that he was trying to get in contact with us and he wanted to see us one last time, and that's what really that's what kind of bothered me, is that even when he was in Oregon and stuff like that, like, you got to think, I didn't go to my pop's funeral. I probably didn't have enough money to go. I had my shop around that time and stuff too, but he died alone. Nobody was there. I think my aunt tried to go. My aunt might have been the only person there, but she loved her brother, and it's crazy because he wanted to see the family together. My dad caused a lot of destruction by kind of, keeping his side of the family kind of away from us and not really, you know what I'm saying? But, my aunt said he was kind of a private person. But, like, I think, and then even now, like when my aunt just passed, I should have been down to Chicago. I should have went to Chicago. I should have been down there to visit her and stuff like that. Last time I seen her was like 2015. You know what I'm saying? And I think I talked to her on the phone. I talked to her on the phone 2024, like, before she passed. But she had passed. And there was still a lot of conversations for us to have. I want to talk about the pictures of her great grandma from South Carolina, Mississippi, and all that. And you know what I'm saying? I want to get that heritage and get that game and get that love. And I didn't make the best effort to get down there. I should have been down there. I should have been down there a few times. Last time I went down there was 2015. So that was like the last person that really got our family history heritage to the T. Like she could dial back in the 1930s and be like, oh yeah, that was grandma so-and-so, so-and-so. She was born at 18. So, I mean, and got it like that. She ain't forgetting nothing. She could tell you the names, the middle name, the dates, when they was born, when they died. I mean, just sharp. You know what I'm saying? So, my dad didn't really have it like that. He didn't really keep them dates because around that time I wasn't of an age or an interest to really, and it wasn't pushed. Like I like Roots and Malcolm X and all that kind of stuff, but I you know, there wasn't really nobody to get stayed on it. Like, hey man, you need to know these dates. You need to know these are your folks. These are the people that came from them plantations. This, you know, that wasn't something that was really pushed. So it became an interest later, especially when I got into my late 30s and, you know, especially like within the last 8 years, especially I say the last 5 or 6 years, I really been on top of it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Like I remember some of the stories, and that's why I'm documenting this stuff. But you know, I remember some of the stories. But yeah, you know, like he wanted to see us one last time. Because keep in mind, he has not seen his sons since they was kids. He died in 2009. So he didn't see us since... He didn't see us in 2000 or 2001. The last time he seen his sons... Think about this for y'all for a second, y'all. The last time this man seen his children, his sons that's going to bear the Pearson name. The last time that he seen his sons was maybe 99... 2000. I mean, I got suspended from school. My mom sent me to Iowa, but I didn't see him 11th or 12th grade. I remember when my brother had graduated, I think, from high school, and they kind of got into like an argument on the phone. He was gonna come up to see my brother graduate from high school, but my brother didn't really want to rock with him because he still had like a bone to pick. Like, you know, he didn't feel like, you know, I guess he felt abandoned. Like he didn't really feel like my dad really, you know what I'm saying, did what he was supposed to do. And you know, at that age, you got to think. At that age, and my dad really, me and my older brother kind of really got most of the abuse. He really didn't do too much to my little brother. Not really. I mean, he might have talked about him or something like that. But I mean, he didn't do too much to him. Like my younger brother used to always kind of get a pass. They used to just let him do anything. Like he could stomp his feet around and catch an attitude or whatever. Like me, I'd get my ass whooped for that. Yeah, I ain't getting no pass, none, no. But I think he was a premature, so they kind of like, okay, we gonna give him a little more slack. But you know, yeah, I think that there was still a lot to be said. Like I should have made some kind of effort. You know what I'm saying? Now I understand when they tell people, hey man, you know what I'm saying? You never know. You never know. I should have made some kind of effort to get down to Oregon. Even if I had to take a train or whatever, you know what I'm saying, to get down to Oregon to kick it with my pops. Because we never got to sit. It's crazy. We never really got to have that serious sit down. You know, and we didn't talk. Like I said, the last conversation that we had on the phone, I didn't see his face. I seen some pictures, but you know. So now that you got to think, I'm 42. My son is 5. Now he wouldn't have got to see his grandparents because they were dead. My grandma's still alive. On my mother's side, my grandpa is gone. They didn't get to see the fruits of my labor. My parents didn't really get to see me. Like, I'm the first Pearson to own a home. Even with the college thing, that would have been a big thing. But I think even bigger than that, because my mom was gone by that time when I started doing the tech training. When I went and got that award, you know what I'm saying, for the tech training and stuff like that. And like my grandma got to see that. But by that time, well, hold on, let me think. No, my mom was gone by that time. I mean, she was gone. So when I was doing the tech training and all that kind of stuff, she didn't get to see that. And my dad was gone in '09, so so they didn't really get to see the fruits of their labor. They didn't really get to see, like, okay, my son was the first to own a home. My mom and dad never owned property. I'm about to pop my property off, get some more. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been a good milestone for them to see. And then out of all my brothers, I'm the only one that has now passed my genetic legacy. I have a son now. So you know what I'm saying? Not to say they can't, but now, so it would have been nice for them to see it, but they just, they were sick. They didn't make it. I mean, what can you do? But, like, I was able to kind of surpass my dad. You got to think, my dad was 50 when he had me. I'm not nowhere near 50. I was able to accumulate more wealth and more money and do things a lot faster rate in my 20s and 30s than my pops did in his 50s, which is what I'm supposed to do. That's a good thing. You see what I'm saying? That's very good. So now my son needs to do that earlier. He needs to look at some of my faults, break some of these generational curses. I already broke a whole bunch of them. One of them, I didn't want to have a child out of wedlock, which I don't think my dad did with us. But like, that was something that I didn't want to do. I wanted to have some property. I wanted, and then once I had my son, I said, okay, I gotta have a house. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was able to break some of those generational curses. There's a couple other ones I got to work on, and those got to get nipped out the way quick. But these were things that I was able to do that I think they would have been proud of. I think they would have enjoyed to see a lot of that stuff. Like, okay, my son's an author, this, that, and the third. So I'm kind of, I'm kind of going back into that mode where, you make your ancestors proud, man. And, like, this was only supposed to be a half hour, but, this going to be part 5, part 6 or whatnot. Man, you need to, you need to make, like he was talking about, like, with purpose and stuff. You're not here just to waste time and breathe air. You're here to get stuff done. You see what I'm saying? So, now I kind of, and the genetics is big. Like, now I really understand why my dad, and I think Callus Pearson, his dad, was probably the same way. Now I kind of understand. I do understand why my dad was so adamant and why he didn't like ambitious people. Why he didn't like folks who just don't do anything. He had a certain disdain for lazy people. To me, I didn't care for him, but like he really, it was something about like lazy. He didn't like lazy men. He did not like lazy men. That was one thing I could say about my pops. He wasn't lazy. He didn't like them. I think he despised them. He hated them. If you were a lazy dude and you were able-bodied, he had no respect for you. Like, you could jump, you commit suicide, jump off a bridge. He wouldn't give a damn. He'd be like, shit. One less, what they call it, carbon something. He'd be like, we don't need him because he's a weak link. He'll destroy us all. That's how he would look at men. Like men that could not add anything or didn't have no skill set or couldn't bring anything to the forefront around other men. Yeah, you couldn't really be around my dad like that. You couldn't, he wouldn't, he just wouldn't like you, and he wouldn't pretend to do it either. He'd be like, man, that nigga ain't about nothing. That man ain't even willing to work. He felt like, basically, I remember one time he told us, and I'll tell another little quick story before I go, which he throw me off, but he basically told us, like, shit, if a man don't work, he should die. He would get flattered. He said, man, that man don't deserve to live. He said he ain't worth, I think he told me one time, he said he ain't worth shit. He ain't even worth living. If that man ain't willing to work, that man should not eat. He should starve to death. That's what he used to tell us when we was kids. He said that man should die. He should not be up on God's green earth. He ain't worth nothing. He said, you shouldn't trust him either. He said, because he don't want you to eat. I'm like, damn. If he don't want to eat himself, and he don't want to feed himself, and he's able-bodied now, he's able-bodied. When he talking about somebody that can't, he definitely ain't got no love for me. Because if somebody don't got no ambition and respect for themselves, they definitely gonna leech on you. They gonna leech on your energy. They gonna leech, So that kind of made sense. But he was harsh on, like, when men, when men didn't want to do nothing or lazy or whatever the case may be. He had a serious problem with that. He didn't want to be around you. So that's one thing I could say. He was never lazy. Never. He wasn't lazy. He just may not have been organized with follow-up with his businesses and stuff like that. But, another thing that they taught me, and I'll leave with this, is like, it was very confusing, and I wasn't sure if he had some mental stuff going on, but like, sometimes it was confusing because, like, remember with the school, you can't get suspended from school under no circumstance. I don't care what happens, you cannot get suspended from school. But he had this thing. He told me and my brother one time, and it was very confusing. But he told us that don't bother nobody, don't pick no fights. But if somebody plays with you, and you was righteous, and you was minding your own business, the gloves are off. He said you could unalive him. He told us, he said you could unalive him. Straight up, my dad said you could whack him for all I care. He said whatever you do to them, make sure it's brutal. Make sure they don't never forget about it. And I was kind of like, damn. I said, and he was like, yeah. And I thought he was joking at first. Me and my brother looking like, he's like, no, dead serious. A brick, a rock, whatever. He said, send him to the hospital. He said, because, you and your brother, y'all are a little smaller than some of the other kids or whatever like that. But that's what my dad told me. He said, put him in the ER. Put him in the ER. I ain't going to have no issue with it. I'll back you 100%. Put him in the ER. He said, not in school. He said, but if anybody, he said, now I'm talking about if you minding your own business. Now, he kept reiterating, if you're minding your own business and you ain't bothering nobody, anything you do to them, he said, there is no sin under the sun, as far as I'm concerned. He said, you could be straight callous. He said, you hurt them to the full extent. He said, set an example. He said, yeah, you might get in some trouble. He said, but they know not to play with you. And I was like, man, I kind of like that. I said, I kind of like this, you know what I'm saying? Because, but I mean, he was serious. And he told us, he was telling us about, like, in Mississippi, on how, like, when his friends used to, he said, the way you fight, he said, if you get jumped, he said, if it's you and your brother, he said, don't matter what the outcome, win, lose, or draw, if you get jumped, he said, what you do, he said, you double team them. He said, if it's you and your brother and y'all are getting jumped or something like that, and you're outnumbered, he said, you get double team them. He said, it don't matter if you get beat up by the other ones. He said, but you pick one. He said, you punish them. He said, what you do, he said, you grab one. He said, they all gonna come towards you a lot of times. He said, you and your brother, you grab one, y'all pound on them, and you push that one person towards the group, and they gonna fall. That's what he told us. So I didn't try it because I didn't get jumped like that. But just little things and stuff like that they used to do in Mississippi or whatnot. But I'll say one last thing that he had taught me about how to get evil spirits out your life, how to get bad people out your life. He said, just don't answer the door. He said, just don't answer the door, don't answer the phone. And he said, if they on drugs or doing whatever the case may be, he said, stop doing drugs. He said, y'all ain't gonna have nothing to talk about. You're not gonna have no common ground. Because if you stop doing whatever you doing with them, y'all not gonna, when you sit down, the next time y'all talk, you're not gonna have nothing in common. Because they always high and out of their mind or doing whatever they do, and then you focused. You know what I'm saying? And save your money. Like, he didn't really save his money like that. You know what I'm saying? So maybe he was telling us to, so they don't end up like him. You know what I'm saying? I'm quite sure that at some point, like, You know, like he's like that last conversation we had at Vadnais Heights, man. Like he was talking about how like just his faults, just atoning for his sins. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's, you know, he was just he was just being, you know, accounting for what he didn't do or whatever the case may be. These are the kind of things that, you know, he was talking about. And so for me, it was almost like a therapy session, because whatever little issues that I had with him, most of those I kind of was just like, well, whatever. But, you know, just to hear these conversations, and then now you look up like whatever dislike I had, that buries the hatchet. When I got off that phone, I feel like, okay, whatever it was, for me it buries the hatchet. I can't speak for my brother or whatever, but for me it buries the hatchet. And that's why it was more important that we sat down and talked, because there was still time at that time. And actually, before he passed, remember, he was kind of on his last leg, but he wasn't going to make that trip all the way from Chicago to Minneapolis if he didn't get in contact with nobody. And I didn't have no issue. I would have sat down. I don't know if my brother would have, but you know, we missed the call. I don't know I don't know what happened with that phone. But, you know, so he's reflecting, and you got to think he's as an old man. It's an old, lonely man living in Eugene, Oregon. Looking back, man, I should have did this, Derek. I should have did that. I should have kept the family together. That was his whole thing. I should have kept the family together. I should have put more time into you guys. I'm 20-something years old at this time. Fresh off of diabetes, 1,200 blood sugar. You see what I'm saying? Coming off my internship, going into corporate America on my first IT contract. This is August 2008. I'm speaking to him in the fall of 2008. You know, so this is a conversation. You know, I'm at that age where whatever bitterness I might have had maybe 3-4 years ago, that's out the way, because at the point in my life, I felt like I was having my way. I felt like I was kind of doing my thing. So for me, you know, I wasn't tripping that hard. So, you know, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and load this up, y'all. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, man. I'm about to go back and try to replay this and see how this goes. And this is going to be my story time. Y'all get the Ed Pearson part 4, and you get the Ed Pearson part 5. And then you also get the business system analyst. You know, shout out to my homie. So he'll be listening to this. So I think I'm just going to load them all up. And I think tomorrow when I get my coffee, I'm going to do some more. I just don't know what I'm going to do. But I might do a regular podcast. I don't know. So we'll see, man. I'm about to go to bed, y'all. So y'all, thank you for listening, man. This might be the final, you know, of the Ed Pearson Adventures of DP. And we will close.